What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. If you've been anywhere near the Russian internet this week, assuming it even worked, you've probably noticed something weird. Or rather something terrifying. The Kremlin has officially lost its patience with the digital world. We are talking about an all-out assault on apps, platforms, services, and any trace of the global internet inside the motherland. Gone are the days of slow-burn censorship where they sneakily blocked websites and then pretended it was some kind of a technical issue. Now, Putin and his merry gang of delusional paranoics want to shut it all down, and they want it done yesterday. So the real question is, why the rush? What changed in 2025 that made Kremlin officials act like somebody hit the panic button? The answer is, it's not just about the bad influence of YouTube or WhatsApp or any other platform, Meta, Facebook. No, this is much bigger. This is about war, and not the ongoing one, the next one. Not outside of Russian borders, but within the country itself. And if you think this all just sounds a little too doomsday prepper, then buckle up, because we are about to walk through 4 very real, very terrifying possibilities on how all the digital life in Russia can collapse. All thanks to Putin. And all of them point to one conclusion. Russia is being locked into a digital coffin, and they plan to bury the country in it as soon as possible. The roads they want to take might be plenty and different, but the destination is always the same. Let's start with the most obvious and most terrifying. Theory number 1. Another wave of maybe partial mobilization. Remember September 2022, that national trauma where people were so desperate to escape the draft that they stuffed themselves into the trunks of cars and crossed frozen rivers on foot. Yes, that was a PR disaster of biblical proportions. Putin looked less like a wartime leader and more like a scammer desperately trying to sell extended car warranties. And nobody bought it. People were not lining up to die for the fatherland, they were lining up at the border, so the Kremlin pivoted. No more forced drafts. Instead, they rolled out the biggest cash for carnage program the country has ever seen. If you want 3 million rubles, all you have to do is sign here and vanish into a trench outside of Bakhmut. No experience necessary. Just a pulse and zero regard for your own life or the concerns of your family members. And it worked, at least for a while. They managed to lure in enough debt-ridden hopeless men to keep the meat grinder running. But now, the grinder is hungry again. The war has escalated, casualties are through the roof even though not too many people are speaking about it. The cemeteries are running out of space, and the cash incentives are losing their magic attraction. Everyone who could be tempted already signed. Everyone who was stupid enough to think they would survive is either dead or hiding. And here's the thing, you cannot just buy your way through a war that's now eating 1,000 lives a day. That is not a recruitment problem. That is an extinction-level event. So the Kremlin needs no new bodies. What else? Just continue doing this, why? Yeah. But how do you avoid another 2022 panic? You just cut the communications. Kill the messengers before they can scream, block the videos, silence the whistleblowers. If nobody can talk about what is happening, maybe nobody will run. Maybe they will be too stunned and isolated to fight back. That is the plan. Shut down the internet. Launch the draft. Pretend everything is fine. The word of mouth travels pretty slow in some ways and most of the times, but the TV propaganda will still affect millions of people every single day. So maybe, just maybe, Putin will be able to bring back the glorious days of the Second World War that he desperately wants, when people truly wanted to protect the motherland no matter the cost. Let's talk about the second now way how Putin can shut down everything digital in Russia in our next chapter. But maybe this is not just about Ukraine. Maybe Putin's dreams got bigger, or dumber, or both. Enter theory number 2. A new war. A real one. The kind with NATO flags and American tanks. Because let's be honest, Ukraine was never supposed to last this long. The whole thing was sold as a special military operation that would wrap up before spring. Instead, it is year 3 and counting, and Putin still stuck playing Risk with blood and missiles. So, what does a delusional autocrat do when plan A fails? He skips right to plan Z. The choice of letter is no random. You know why. And right now plan Z might very well be the Baltics. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, 3 tiny countries with one giant strategic weakness, the Suwalki Gap. It is a narrow strip of land between Poland and Lithuania that connects the Baltic states to the rest of NATO. Block that off, and suddenly you've got 3 democracies hanging by a thread. It is a wet dream for a dictator with a god complex, especially since all these 3 countries were part of the Soviet Union, so the foundation of propaganda is already in place. Putin just needs to find the right strings to push and, well, the rest is history. And guess what? The signs of even more active intervention are already here. New barracks on the Russian-Finnish border, military drills in Belarus suspiciously close to NATO territory, propaganda channels ramping up anti-Baltic rhetoric like it is 1939 all over again. If this sounds familiar, that's because it is. Putin did exactly the same thing before invading Ukraine. He called it a drill. So what, there are hundreds, thousands of tanks next to Ukrainian border. Except that it was not a drill, as we all know. So why then the digital blackout inside Russia itself then? Simple. You cannot start a war against NATO with half your population live streaming it on live on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, I don't know. You need silence. Total paralyzing silence. Shut off the lights, cut off the wires, control the narrative. If YouTube is still writing, if WhatsApp is still pinging, if any single VPN is working, then the whole illusion collapses. And the illusion is everything for a regime built on dreams. Now it is time to review the third potential scenario, which we will do in our next chapter. Now let's talk rubles, because if you think this is all just about the war and censorship, you're missing the third piece of the puzzle. The Russian economy is about to collapse like a Jenga tower in a windstorm. All those military bonuses, all these reconstruction promises, the tanks, the drones, the bribes, the funerals, someone has to pay for it. And surprise, that someone is the regular people of Russia. Actually, are you even surprised? You thought oligarchs or state-owned companies will cover most of these expenses. Yeah, right, I know, it's pretty funny to even say it out loud. The budget is bleeding, all prices are down, sanctions are not just staying, they are multiplying. The central bank is pulling every lever it can, and nothing is working. Interest rates are so high, they make loan sharks look generous. Just an example, the mortgage rates in Russia are in between 16, and get ready for this, 35%. Imagine you are a very credit unworthy person, but you still need a place to live, right? So you sell everything to afford the down payment, and then, 30 years later, if you still somehow manage to make these outrageous payments, you end up paying 8 times over the price of your home. I mean, check if you want, use the mortgage calculator, 8 times. So no wonder many people just sign a military contract, because that's literally a decision between actual and financial self-destruction. Businesses are also choking, consumers are drowning, and the war machine is guzzling cash like a drunk uncle at an open bar. So what does a government do when it's broke, desperate, and drunk on power? It steals. It slashes pensions. It raises taxes. It raids savings accounts or just plainly takes them out. And every time it does, it risks a rebellion. Which brings us back to the internet. In a functioning country, people would protest, they would organize, they would expose the theft. But not if they're silenced and blinded. Not if their apps are gone and their platforms are blocked. Not if Telegram is replaced with some state-built Frankenstein app called Max. That's just pretty much a glorified wiretap. The blackout is not just about war, it's about money. It's about survival. It's about robbing you in the broad daylight without you even realizing or noticing until it's too late. And that is precisely why the regime cannot afford people to share their stories and see the reality happening right in front of their eyes. And then, of course, there is a theory number 4, the one that's both the scariest and the most believable. What if this is not just about strategy at all? What if there is no secret mobilization, no Baltic invasion, no economic plan? What if Putin just snaps? This is, after all, a dictatorship. A personalist regime where one man's whims become law. What if one morning Vladimir Vladimirovich spills tea on his keyboard, curses in frustration and decides that he's had enough of the foreign internet and it's time to block it? What if this entire crackdown is just one man's tantrum made into policy? It would not be the first time. But here's the problem. Even if it started as a mood swing, the machinery is moving now. Once the ban hammer drops, it is hard to pick it back up. You cannot just unban the internet after gutting it like a fish. The infrastructure is already being dismantled, laws are already being passed, services are already being replaced with clunky surveilled garbage. This is not a temporary glitch, it is permanent. This is a blueprint for the future. And whether it was triggered by paranoia, poverty, or pure delusion, the result is the same. The walls are closing in, and they are slamming shut fast. So ask yourself, what are they planning that cannot afford witnesses? Because whatever it is, you will not hear about it on WhatsApp or YouTube or Telegram. You will only hear about it the way Russians hear everything now. Too late, too quiet, and through a wall of silence. It is a very long road that leads to nowhere with many intersections and left or right turns. But no matter which direction the regime of Putin goes, it almost always inevitably ends up in the ditch of nothingness. The rescue truck will come, rest assured, but the driver and his passengers might be long gone before that. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to help us stay independent, there are links to support down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims are resolve they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in